Hello, good day to all of you. For today's lesson, we will discuss the testing methods for electronic components. Do you know the purpose of testing components is to find out the defects and verify the functioning of software? Let's find out on this lesson.
What is component testing? Component testing is referred to as a software testing type, in which the testing is performed on each individual component separately without integrating with other components. The other term for component testing is module testing, when it's viewed from architecture perspective. Component testing is also referred to as unit testing, program testing, or modules testing.
Objective of the component testing. The main objective of the component testing is to check the input or output behavior of the test object. It ensures the functionality of the objects. It's working properly and completely in compliance with the desired specific.
Thus, the component testing. Component testing is performed by testers. Unit testing is conducted by the developers, where they do the testing of individual functionality or procedure.
When to perform component testing? Component testing is conducted shortly after the developers conduct the unit testing and the build is released to the testing team. This build is called UT build or unit testing build. Major functionality of all the components are verified in this phase.
In entry criteria for component testing, minimum number of the components to be included in the UT or unit testing should be developed and tested. Meanwhile, in exit criteria for component testing, the functionality of the components should be working fine and there should be no presence of any critical or high, medium severity and priority defect levels.
Component testing techniques. Component testing can be categorized as component testing in small, CTIS, and component testing in large, CTIL. Component testing in small, or CTIS, it is performed with the isolation of another component. Component testing may be carried out in isolation with other device components depending on the implementation lifecycle model. Example of CTIS. Consider a website which has 5 different web pages, then testing each web page separately and with the isolation of other components is referred as component testing in small. Component testing in large or CTIL. Component testing done without isolation of other components in the software or application under test. Example of CTIL. Suppose there is an application consisting of 3 components, say component A, component B, and component C. Functionality flow. Functionality flow A to B to C, which means that both A and C are dependent on B, as the diagram stub is called function and the driver is called function. Stub. A stub from the software feature to be checked is called feature A, as seen in the diagram below, stub. Driver. The driver calls the part to be checked, as seen in the diagram below, component B is called by driver.
Differences in testing methods in the unit testing and component testing. The unit testing is done by the developers where they do the testing of the individual functionality or procedures. After unit testing is executed, component testing follows. Component testing play a very important role in the finding bugs. Before we start, with their integration testing is always preferable to the component testing order to ensure that each component of an application is working effectively.